Try again. That's how it's going to work. So I may not get you guys live. This may end up being a recording. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. So we'll go back. Let's go through the UAs though, and we can go back over the other stuff if that works for you.
Yep.
So I'm going to do this one for Beauvais. That's who we're after here. So if you guys can join us, try. If you can't, we'll give it a whirl. Jennifer's there. Hey Jennifer, can you see me right now, or am I just talking to myself? Because we've had trouble with FaceTime this morning. Bueller, anyone? Ferris? I see. I can't see you and hear you. I can see you. Hey, all right, good, yay. Woohoo! So we're in good shape. Okay, cool. So hopefully this will work for everybody. Let's go back through this then. So we're working on the one. Let's go back. Just cover it for me again.
Okay, so this patient complained of being hungry on the first round, and she is now on the second round and complaining of being hungrier. So Dr. Beauvais started her on AGGR and did an integrated urinalysis panel.
Perfect. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to hit for why she's hungry, and I was going through this. We saw up in the chem strip findings in the pathology section, we had protein showing up. So a trace. You know there's a problem then. Immediately you start thinking kidney, right? And I kind of gave the analogy of the horsefly and all this stuff. Sorry you guys didn't get it. The kidney is a screen. We all know that. Horsefly is too big to fit through the screen. If we see the horsefly, in this case in the house, we know, uh-oh, there's a hole in the screen somewhere. So the kidney, in this case, protein is the fly. It's just too big to fit. So now all of a sudden we see it getting inside, so we think, all right, there's something going on in that kidney. Now it's a trace. It's not catastrophic, but it's a trace. So then we go back and we look at the leukocytes. There's some leukocytes showing up as well. That just means inflammation. So you've got a little bit of damage and some inflammation at the kidney level. It's a 61-year-old female. She's not cycling then most likely. There's no blood that would be there naturally. So we think, all right, something's going on with that organ. Now we drop into the lab itself. Indican's normal, so we're good there. That's absorption, right? It's digestion beginning. But then we get to sediment. Her sediment is a 0.9. So think, all right, it's a 9. Normal's a 5. Super high. Anytime you're above the water line on this thing, you look at the water line, anytime you get above this in the sediment, you start thinking biliary function, gallbladder, liver. Something's going on in that tissue. And okay, so from a digestive standpoint, gallbladder, liver, we start thinking, okay, fat and protein digestion. How we break it down. So I look at the total sediment makeup. Her oxalates are a 3, her urics a 2. So 5 of her 9 are things we don't want to see. So this is a patient who doesn't break down and utilize their protein or their fat very well. All right, now let's look at the diet. High protein, no fat, no carb. So of the 3 food groups that we have, she can really use one, and that's the carbohydrates. We're taking those away and forcing her to do high protein. So you can see why she's struggling with this. You're going to have to digest that protein better. So you're going to need to put some kind of an enzyme blend in there, right? And digest that protein for her. Help break it down. And then as I was talking before we got cut off, cycle the proteins. Lots and lots and lots of variety. Change them every single meal. It cannot be chicken, 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 chicken for the next 6 weeks. They'll starve. They'll really struggle. And this is someone you'll see the muscle mass go down on when they do the program, because their body's going to go after their own muscle because it can't get fuel. So we want to make sure it's got what it needs. Okay, they use the drops. The AGGR is a good call. It's going to help with cravings and things like that. But you're really going to have to be very, very acutely aware of protein with this patient. So lots of different varieties. Start thinking seafood, because there's hundreds of varieties of seafood out there. You want to stay low fat if you can, okay? But make sure you're putting that in there. When you look at beef, ground beef, filet, T-bone, ribeye, all those cuts are different protein qualities. They're different amino contents. So use the steaks that are allowable, use different varieties that are allowable, and put those in there. And that should help a bunch, okay? So that's really what you're looking at. Her calcium's light. It just goes back with that whole fat thing. There's a thyroid issue going on here, it looks like. Probably more of a hyper than anything from the looks of it that I can see. The pH is low, so you know digestion's not going very well. That again says watch that thyroid. Okay, and we look at the thyroid, what does it need? Calcium, magnesium, iodine. How do you get those 3 things in your diet? Tend to have high protein content. You got to have that protein breakdown to create the acidity to absorb those things. So that's where your fire's at with this one. Chlorides were good. Volumes a little high, but not bad. But you look at the gravity on this one. Okay, so the volume's sitting at 2,000. The gravity's way up at 14. They're dumping a lot of waste through there. Now, it might be that protein that's doing it, but also all that sediment. They're just not breaking their food down very well. They're not absorbing it. So on this particular one, I would cycle my proteins, digest it for them, help break it down, tell them to chew, 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 chew. Make sure they're giving it lots of surface area because enzymes eat things they can touch. So if you put a little ball of dough in there, it bakes like a cookie. It can burn on the outside and raw in the middle. If you roll it out, chewing it, right, roll it out, the enzymes can eat what they can touch, and you'll be much more successful with digestion. That is where I would start with this. You got a color change, so there's a little bit of irritation in the gut, maybe yeast and stuff, but that's the old habits, and the diet will clean that up. They're vitamin C deficient. Vitamin C and protein, boy, they're married. You see them a lot together. So it makes sense that they have a little trouble with this particular one. But aside from that, that's where you start. Clean up the protein, lots of variety, digest it, and I bet you'll get a great result with that one. What's our next one?
Okay, the second one is from Dr. Foster. This UA was completed in May of 2017. Patient can't shake muscle weakness and fatigue. She is on multiple vitamins and enzymes. She is losing weight, but last visit shows she has lost muscle. Doctor increased protein by ½ ounce because she walks daily.
Okay, so she's 73. That's the first thing we're looking at here. Okay, so muscle weakness and fatigue. There's no pathology showing up, but she's 73. So right away you already know she's not going to be efficient with her nutrients. We look at her breakdown and her indicans is 0, so digestion's not good. That's what that's telling you, right? Leaky gut, you want to watch for that. But then we look at her sediment, and this is a good one because her sediment's a 5. And you think, oh, that's great, that's normal. Until you look at the makeup. Her oxalates are a 2, her phosphate's a 1, her uric's a 2. So the oxalates and the uric, put them together. 4 of the 5 she doesn't want to see. So she's not utilizing protein well. She's not utilizing fat that well, which means she's not getting a lot of fuel. Well, that only leaves carbohydrates left, and her phosphate's a 1, which means she's not using that well. So what you're seeing is something that's very common as we age. Our digestive systems naturally slow as we age. You're seeing that here. She's not very efficient. She's not getting her nutrients in. She's not absorbing them very well. And when she's absorbing, she's not utilizing. Well, then that leads to overgrowths and yeast problems and all these things. So she can eat a very clean diet, but you got to digest that food. Now, in this case, you're going to have to really focus on all 3 food groups. You can't just go after protein. You can't just go after fat. You have to look at all of them. So you got to make sure the body's breaking down all 3 food groups and you're giving it a balanced diet every meal. I would focus on three meals a day, and with me, I'd put in 3 snacks. And my snacks would always be protein based. Always. Prime that pump. Prime that pump. Make sure she's chewing well. Again, 73. Are the teeth hers? Are they not hers? You know, she may not chew real well. She's a female at 73. Most women, as you get to a certain point in life, aren't big meat eaters. Right? She may not be eating enough protein. You may have to supplement that in at some point. But that's for sure where I would start. Her pH is in the toilet. It's 5.89. And I'm looking at this thinking, I'm doubting she's sitting down eating 4 steaks a day, creating all that acidity, so it's probably sugar or carbohydrates of some kind. It could be fruit or something like that, but that's what creates that acidity. So we look at that and say, all right, well, the body's getting pushed in a real acid direction, so you know the small intestine is involved because most of your digestion really truly occurs there. So you're looking at small intestine function, chlorides are low, now you have adrenal fatigue on top of this. That's going to be tired, that's your muscle weakness. Volume's pretty high. She's 2,100 for her volume. It's too much.
Jen is asking on this one, the teeth are hers, but she's asking 3 snacks on Chirothin.
Okay, so she's on the program, so let's go that route then. So we got to back it up. If she's doing the weight loss program, let me back this up. I thought this was a patient because they ran it a year ago. So if you ran your UA a year ago, guys, always run your UA at the beginning of the program. So running it last year is good, but it's a year ago. And how much has changed in a year's time. You know, take a picture of yourself at Christmas, take one next year. we look different, right? We change. So on this particular one, then we're taking old information and applying it to what's going on today. So she's trying to lose weight. She's trying to go through here. So I would still focus on this. Cycle your proteins. All right, as nice as I can tell you, cycle your proteins as much as possible. You're going to have to use a digestive formula here. You're going to have to as she goes through, because she's just not efficient. The body's not very good at digesting the food, so as it's losing weight, it's going to burn whatever it's got. So that's where I would start. And when you get her through this cycle and you get it all balanced out, then see where the body's at. The kidney looks like it's holding its own. You know, her volume is high, but her gravity's high. So we look at that and think, man, she's throwing a lot of stuff away into that urine. A lot of stuff because she's not digesting it. So start there. Just give her something to digest her food and see what happens. What's the next one?
Okay, the last one is from Amber McDonald, who works with Clint Steele. This is a past chirothin patient who is complaining about hair loss. Integrated urinalysis panel said her sediment levels were a 0.3. I addressed that with CN digestion. My question is about her calcium levels, which are slightly low, which indicates possible hyperthyroid and fatty acid metabolism deficiency. What would you address first and how?
Is she on the program right now?
It says past chirothin patient.
Okay, so she's healthy, okay, and doing anything, but she's just got hair loss. So let's see where she's at. She's 53. So hair loss right away, you start thinking fatty acids in a female. Okay, protein's important too, but you start thinking fat. The fat's not there, that's when you start losing the hair. So you go through it from that standpoint. Now you're looking at hormonal balance. So it's a really good question. And again, looking at this one, they wanted to compare the two things. They wanted to know whether we go after the calcium or what was the other one?
Sediment levels.
Okay, so sediment always trumps everything. Because if you can't digest your food, you can't get the nutrients. So if you don't break down the fat, you don't break down the protein or the carbs, you don't ever get the nutrients to repair. So putting in bunches of minerals and this and that, all you're doing is trying to play catch up. You never will. You got a big hole in the tire. Doesn't matter how much air you're putting in, you got a big hole. You got to patch the hole. So sediment for me is always a critical piece that I look at. Are they digesting, absorbing, and utilizing their food? So on this particular one, they're not, right? The oxalates are a little elevated. You got to figure out where they're coming from. Remember the 4 C's and the T. Coffees, colas, chocolates, vitamin C supplements, or teas. Is that in their diet? If it's not, it's poor fat utilization. People, as a rule of thumb, and Howard always taught me this, people who don't digest or utilize fat well eat too much sugar. You need energy, right? You got to turn to something. So the body likes to turn to sugar because it's quick fuel. So you look at this, phosphate's a 1, so you know they got a big sweet tooth in there somewhere, and the oxalates are high. They're not using their fat very well. They tend to turn towards sugar for fuel. Well, that then sets them up for fatty acid, fatty mineral deficiencies, A, D, E, and K. And that's where you start picking up the osteoporosis. That's where you pick up blood issues. You start seeing blood pressure issues, hypertension. You'll see vitamin D deficiencies. All the female hormonal stuff will start showing up in here. So I would start with sediment first. That's number one. And on this particular one, because of your case study, if you know, well, that's my big fire is there. I've cleaned the diet up, so I don't have to worry about the yeast as much because it's all over this UA. But you may have cleaned the diet up by now. I may have fixed that. Then you focus on saying, okay, what's next? I got to work on that calcium and getting that serum calcium level up. Not calcium supplements. Foods, female hormonal support wouldn't be a bad idea. Again, I look at herbals and things of that nature. Start breaking stuff down. You just go through these and say, okay, where is the body in trouble at? You can do multis and things like that if you need to for short term. But just start looking. A blood panel would tell you. This is where blood work's good. A blood panel will tell you what their vitamin D levels are. All right, this is indicating it might be off, but it doesn't tell you exactly what a blood panel would. You could tell it right away. It would also pick up that thyroid being in trouble. So that's kind of how this works, guys. And that's where I would start with that. So you go through it again. I look at the volume on that particular one. It's too high. Okay, you're 2,700. It's too high. You're pushing that kidney. Push, 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 push. And every time you push something like this, it fatigues the body. Right? Remember, keep it around 2,000 or less. That's plenty of volume for a urine. And you guys can do this all the time, right? You can have them collect in a milk jug at home, and if they're half a jug or a little more, they're doing pretty good. If they're below that half, they're in trouble. If they fill a gallon and they're looking for another one, way too much fluid is being pushed through those kidneys because you're overworking them. Right? They're a tool. You can't use them too much. It's like a coffee pot. You keep making coffee after coffee after coffee, eventually you'll wear it out. Kidneys work the same way. Okay, so I hope that answers your questions for you. We went through a few other things there that we kind of got shorted on. We'll come back to them later next time maybe and go back to that. But guys, this is what we do. We do it every Friday morning. If you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to. Get a hold of Heather and ask questions if you do. Great comments. I appreciate everything. Sorry for our technical difficulties this morning. Okay, guys, take care. Bye-bye.